Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning, Supervisor.
Wendell and I are in my, so we'll be on mute at the time.
Hi, Wendell.
Good morning.
I love that you guys are so dedicated to being a part of this that no matter where you are, even in the car, you log on. That's awesome.
Well, we're going through various areas in our district looking at some of the paving we're doing.
Wonderful. I'm sure you'll make some people very happy fixing those roads.
Well, you know, we don't do it. He scheduled it for 9 this morning, and like, I want to keep going. You know how you get going? He said, well, I got another hour if we can do the Zoom on the phone. So
there you go.
All right. Well, we're going to put on mute, but we're here if you need us.
Okay, great.
All
Thanks
right,
so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Great, thanks.
Good.
Are you in your office at City Hall?
I am. So hopefully I got decent Wi-Fi. You'd think it'd be perfect up here, but it's not.
Oh, well, I know somebody you can talk to.
I got a couple connections too.
Well, we are very excited to hear from you today, and hopefully it hangs on long enough for you to give us your update.
Oh, I'm sure it will. How you doing, Bobby?
Near perfect, sir.
Glad to hear, bud. Glad to hear you've pretty much all recovered.
I am. Thanks for the prayers and the positive messages and stuff. We really, really appreciate it.
Scary.
So Karen is doing great. She's actually on the call. I think she's muted right now, but she's out in the car driving around to different locations in her area, her and Wendell.
Oh,
So,
nice.
yeah.
Good morning, Mayor Steiner.
Hello, Supervisor Spiegel.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. How you doing? You feeling all better?
I am.
Good, good, good.
And just as a reminder, we are recording right now. So just a heads up for everyone that's coming on the line right now, it is a recorded meeting.
You don't trust me, do you, Bobby?
I'm just trying to cover you, just trying to protect you, sir.
No, you're doing the right thing, actually.
Okay,
All right. I'll see you guys in a bit.
thanks.
I back on, Bobby?
What was that?
Okay, I got dropped, but I'm back.
I'm so glad.
Me too.
It's good to see so many people. Gil, good to have you on. And Isaiah is an amazing young man that you guys have as part of your team.
Good
Great.
morning. Thank you so much. I'll pass that on to him. Much
Yeah.
appreciated.
You betcha. You betcha. Good morning, Paul Bender. Good morning. Andy's on again. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this is the chamber. Just so I could refer, let him know.
Good morning, Bobby.
Good morning. How are you, sir?
Doing super.
Good.
Another wonderful day.
That's awesome. Awesome.
We're going to start in about 2 minutes.
Excellent.
Good morning, Mike Karashi. Don, how are you?
Okay, it's time to get started.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being on our call this morning. I'm Don Williamson. I'm the 2020 chairman of the board for the Corona Chamber of Commerce. We have a really great agenda this morning, and I appreciate you joining us and being here to share in the information that we're going to get today. First off, we'd like to thank our sponsor for today, Vulcan Materials. Vulcan Materials supplies, they're the supplier and distribution of construction materials, including aggregates such as gravel, sand, and crushed stone for all types of buildings, houses, roads, airports, bridges, whatever you can name. So if you're ever in looking for that kind of a product, Vulcan is your guys. One of their employees, Jim Gore, is on our board of directors of the Corona Chamber of Commerce, and they're great supporters of the chamber. So thank you to Vulcan Materials Company. As always, after our speakers are done, there will be time to ask questions. We handle the questions through the chat room, so nothing is expressed verbally, but type it into the chat room where Stephanie will filter through them and then ask the question to the speaker. Because some other people are on Facebook that are watching this, so that way she can filter them and we don't ask the same question or get a lot of confusion. So please use the chat box. The Corona Chamber of Commerce and our staff works hard every week to keep and serve our members informed and help in any way they can. This meeting today, this phone call that we do every week at this time, is one of the benefits of being a member. And today we have great speakers, as we do every week, and it's really a valuable way to spend your time and learn about what's going on firsthand. At this time, it is always my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, which is the Mayor of Corona, Jim Steiner. Jim was elected to the Corona City Council 2 years ago. He served as a member of the Corona Fire Department for 31 years, retiring in 2017 as a ladder truck captain. He's been a fixture here in Corona. He's been known for helping out so many people, individuals, businesses, nonprofits. He was the Citizen of the Year for the Corona Chamber of Commerce a few years ago, and really has consented to be our city councilman now, and we're grateful for that and for his term as mayor. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mayor Jim Steiner.
Thank you so much, Don. I appreciate those words. I just have a couple updates from our Economic Development Department this morning. On Tuesday, September 15th at 9 a.m., we invite restaurant owners in our community to participate in a free webinar offering best practices and recovery strategies for restaurants. The webinar is presented in partnership with the Corona Chamber of Commerce, Riverside County Environmental Health, Riverside County Business and Community Services, and the Inland Empire Small Business Development Center. Corona restaurants can participate
Jim, we lost you.
in financing strategies to be resilient and offer an inviting customer experience. More information and registration details can be found on the city's website under the Office of Economic Development. The month of October is National Manufacturing Month, and Corona is proud to be home to over 400 manufacturers. In partnership with California Manufacturing Technology Consulting and the Corona Chamber of Commerce, we will host a manufacturing webinar on Monday, October 26th, highlighting Corona manufacturers and empowering the next generation of manufacturers. More details will be available soon. And lastly, stay up to date with the economic development news and resources by subscribing to the City of Corona ED newsletter by going to www.teamcorona.com. And that is all I got for you guys this morning.
Thank you, Mayor. Stephanie, do we have any questions for Mayor Steiner?
I do have one question for him. Economic development is critical for our city in many ways. It appears expansion and growth are around the corner. So will the city be creating a one-stop service like a concierge?
You know what? I believe there's something like that that's actually in the works, but Jessica or Ryan will be able to do a better job explaining that. Now, I will say that we share those views too, that economic development and strategic planning for how that department operates and communicates and helps our business community is critical to the success of our city. We're so thankful that we were able to bring on Jessica Gonzalez as a new economic development director. You know, it's like, it's kind of like with the homeless issue. When you bring on somebody that knows how to deal with it, like a Karen Roper, you just see the professionalism and how easy they can make stuff happen. Well, that's Jessica. She's got so much knowledge and experience. And I think you're gonna see our economic development department go in a direction that we just haven't seen before. So it's going to be beneficial to, of course, our business community and our. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Mayor. Think we have anything else?
No more questions.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it, Jim.
Right on.
One of the most important things we do at the Corona Chamber of Commerce is do an advocacy outreach. And this year we've been as active as ever before. There's so much, as you know, going on in the state that affects each and every one of the business here in the state of California, some more so than others. And this is something that we're stronger if we work together, if as a chamber we work on it. And we really do in my opinion, a very, very good job, exceptional job compared to most chambers in the state of California. And at this time, I'd like to introduce the chairman of our Legislative Action Committee, and that's Anthony Edwards of Robertson's Ready Mix. Anthony is one of the chamber's young professionals making history in 2020. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Anthony.
Thank you, Don. Jim, great to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. Also, I see George is on here. George, been a while. I want to thank everyone for making time to jump on the call every week. I believe it's a huge positive for the community and our efforts to educate the community in upcoming legislative issues and how the chamber is backing the community by being the forerunner in pushing back on impending legislation that undoubtedly would hinder business growth in both the city and the county. You know, I'd like to Also thank Jeff Gibson from Occidental Communications for being our legislative advocacy outreach person. He's been great in putting us in contact with some of the people that are at the state level, but also at the federal level. And in that matter, I'd like to introduce Jeff to take that over.
Hey, thank you, Anthony. I appreciate it. So the legislature is out of session as of Monday at midnight. And in the frenzy, it ended up becoming so confused that a woman who runs the state Senate, Tony Atkins, actually forgot that she had a bill pending in the state assembly and actually gabbled the state Senate down too soon for her own bill to pass, which would have allowed duplexes in every single family neighborhood in Corona. So sometimes you luck out on things. We had a very successful year so far. I say so far because the state still has a $54.3 billion state budget deficit that it is yet to deal with. The current plan is for the governor to apply for federal funds. Federal funds are not being offered, though, to any state, and that would happen. So expect that there's going to be a special session in which the budget is dealt with. This part of the final legislative session dealt with very few actual fiscal matters. It was almost all policy. One of the bills that we talked about, AB 3216, which would have forced every employer of any size to have up to 12 weeks of emergency family leave for any incidents of COVID or to any member of any family that is involved in your business. And that was heavily amended. That part was taken out. A restriction on family leave was imposed on employers of above 50, but through another bill, which Senator Roth had announced that the governor had said that was his top legislative priority. It only passed by one vote in the assembly at the very last minute. So never think that your vote doesn't count. One vote majorities reign all the time in every single level of government. So, but to date, every single tax bill that we have taken a position on, the legislature has ended up agreeing with us. And whether those tax bills were sponsored by Senate leadership or Assembly leadership, our position has been agreed with straight across the board. So far, the reason I say so far is because it's fairly obvious, no matter who is the victor in November or thereabouts for president, the likelihood that California would be getting $54.3 billion or its full request of $200 billion in federal assistance is very unlikely. So there's going to have to be a special session either at the end of this year, sometime in the fall, or later into 2021 to deal with a gigantic budget situation. At that point, as we know, it's very likely that all the tax issues will be back on the table, and we'll be back in the fight. So with that, so let's take a sigh of relief that the legislature is out, so every man is free from threat when the legislature is out, as Will Rogers used to say, and live to fight another day. But happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jeff. Whoa, Stephanie, do we have any questions for Jeff?
Yes, we have two so far. The first one, with the upcoming elections, will the chamber be sharing their views on many of the propositions on the ballot, and when?
So we will be on the September 23rd. So your vote by mail, your unsolicited vote by mail ballot will be arriving on October 5th. On Wednesday, September 23rd, I believe that's the Wednesday, we will be going through the major ballot discussion, and then again on the 30th, we'll also be handling each of the other propositions that members have asked us to review. So yeah, so we'll be going through that in the month of September.
Okay, thank you. The next question. Since the legislature was dismissed before the bill that would have allowed duplexes to be built anywhere, will it return in the new session?
Absolutely. It will absolutely return in the new session. So this would be the second time that, second time in 2 years that the bill was defeated. The bill was defeated by African-American and minority members of, let me get this straight. Let me get it straight for everybody. The Democrat majority in the legislature defeated its own bill, largely out of concern by representatives of inner cities in neighborhoods that are always under threat of what is known as gentrification. When a group of folks that have a higher amount of economic means move into a poorer neighborhood and drive up the cost of real estate to the point where people move out. And so that is a major fault line within the majority caucuses of the Assembly and the State Senate. Those were the people that had the debate and ended up killing the bill. So, but it will be returning, and look for it to have, when it returns, to have homeless components in it and Section 8 components in it, and a number of different components for low-income housing, because that's really kind of the thing that is animating the housing discussion in Sacramento, is for how do we get each city to focus on allowing affordable housing, permanent homeless housing, each of these issues. So.
Thank you. We got one more question. Is there any news on the supplemental unemployment insurance of $300 or $400?
So the state is not going to do its match of $100 for the supplemental insurance. So it will end up being the $300 for from the federal government, which was granted by the executive order from the president. It's very unlikely, even though Steve Mnuchin, excuse me for whatever that was, that didn't come from me, I don't think. The Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin has confirmed that there may be a piece of legislation coming later this week, but it is unlikely that it would be anything that would increase the $300 amount coming from the United States government. So it would be up to the state, and the state has already declared that it doesn't have the $700 million match. So if you were in Arizona, if you were in about 36 other states, you would, and you were unemployed, you would be getting $400 because the state would have the money for the match. California and about 15 states have announced that they don't have any a match for unemployment.
Okay, thank you so much. Those are all the questions we've received.
Great, thank you guys.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Our next guest is the Riverside County Office of Education Area 1 Trustee, Kim Joseph Cousins. Kim's district covers the Coronado Unified School District, part of Lake Elsinore Unified School District, and part of the Riverside Unified School District. He is actively involved on many boards and is currently serving as the president CEO of the Lake Elsinore Valley Chamber of Commerce. Please welcome Kim Joseph Cousins. Kim?
Good morning, Corona. How are you? Thanks, Don, for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning as a representative for Riverside County Office of Education. Recently, the board took action on a resolution to fight against racial and systemic injustices in the school district systems. That is a document that will be made available to you by Stephanie. Just understand that, again, based on the current times that we're in, it's a policy lens for us to review any and all funding within the school district. There's been lots of discussions relative to defunding police, not on our docket, not on our time, not on the safety of our school children will we relent relative to investing in our public safety. So I just wanted to get that out of the way just as the top. I want to start off with All for One. It's a campaign for Riverside County Office of Education. It's part of our foundation. The foundation is looking to fill the gap obviously we were put in a situation with distance learning where we all had to manage being able to do education from our homes. And that is something that has created a magnitude of issues across the district from Coachella to Temecula. So it could be the fact that they didn't have laptops or tablets, so the physical devices that they need, or they don't have enough for their household because there's multiple children and maybe they had one laptop to share amongst 3 students. And the other thing is connectivity. So one of the things we did as part of the Riverside County Board of Supervisors Economic Development Task Force, there's a mouthful, was look for funding from the CARES Act. So the Board of Supervisors did approve a $10 million infusion into that fund that allows the district to assist the 23 school districts within Riverside County on connectivity issues, either physical devices and or hotspots for children. But they're still woefully short on that funding mechanism to make every child whole. So for your information, I am going to go ahead and post down in the chat line for everyone is a connection to the All for One campaign. And that All for One campaign has a GoFundMe component to it. So if you feel generous and would like to help us out, that would be greatly appreciated. The other side of it is really just partnering with our business community, because our partners in the business community are assisting us with the ability to create hotspots within neighborhoods. So there's some great things that Dr. White is doing with the business community to make those facilities available. Farmer Boys is one of our big sponsors. So you can imagine if Farmer Boys in your community has a hotspot so kids can actually connect because they don't have that available at their home site. The next item that's of great jeopardy to our business community, so I'm going to put both hats on, not just the educational hat, but from a Chamber of Commerce business standpoint, is parents are struggling with the lack of resources as it relates to childcare. And one of the things that we did review specifically is, the 60% of the childcares that were actually certified and able to run have gone out of business during the COVID-19 pandemic. So we were always woefully short in Riverside County relative to facilities, and we're even in a worse situation than we were before. So it's going to require all these partnerships and thinking outside of the box. Businesses looking to create on-site spaces where educators can be brought in to help provide childcare and oversight for their distance learning of their workforce, so that their workforce can come back, because moms obviously and dads are not in a position to leave their kids, especially elementary kids, at home all day on their own distance learning while they go to work. So this is a critical component. The County of Riverside has already provided $5 million in childcare for essential workers during the whole pandemic. But the task force, as well as the Board of Supervisors and Dr. White, are looking at alternative solutions to engage our other nonprofit partners like the Boys and Girls Club to see if we can make some additional ways that we can provide for these students during the daytime while their parents go back to work. So look for those types of committees and subcommittees to be working to either acquire space at businesses, space at potentially city-owned properties, as well as school districts, to look for flexibility and ability to provide the child care. And if we can get the facility arranged, the next obviously big part of the component is funding, because as you can imagine, if you need an additional instructor in a classroom with a cohort of kids, then we're going to have to figure out how to pay for them. And that's certainly not in the budget for our nonprofits to do. The other item I wanted to tackle real quick with you is the school waiver process for TK through 6. So this is something that's directed by Riverside County University Health through an application process. And once those applications are approved by Riverside County, the final approval comes through CDPH. And the website that you have up there, that link specifically takes you to a list of everybody who's applied. So as of this morning before the call, there was 26 schools that had applied for waivers. 5 have been approved. But if you look at that list, you'll find out very quickly they're all private and or charter schools. And none of the unified school districts have gone through and done a formal application. And as you can imagine, for larger school districts, Corona Norco, like Elsinore Unified, Myriad, and Menifee, et cetera, it's a huge task to go through and figure out how to have on-site learning, as well as obviously it has to go through their individual board of directors for approval. So, but if you want to keep up with the latest approval applications that are in the pipeline and where they are as to whether or not they've been approved at the state level, that website is your go-to place. So I'm going to just leave it at that and leave it open for any other questions they might have for me. I'm certainly open to answer any questions that might be raised at this time.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Kim. Do we have any questions for Kim, Stephanie?
Yes, I have two so far. How is it determined for student learning? Do parents have their own choice for virtual, in-person, or hybrid?
So one of the things early on when the pandemic hit, there was a group of individuals across all the 23 school districts and superintendents that met up and developed those models. And yes, there are three models. There's distance learning, there's a hybrid model, which would call for kids to rotate during the week time. So maybe you're coming Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, or Tuesday, Thursdays. And then there's obviously an on-site in-person model. All of those were presented to the individual school district boards. So the Board of Education for each individual district decided what model that they would like to proceed. And most of them chose either a distance learning or a hybrid model until the governor presented us with a new set of criterias that didn't allow us to go back to school. The waiver process at the elementary level does allow those school districts to pursue that application if there's time, and then they could go back to some in-site or on-site instruction. But again, those are going to be dependent on the individual school district board of trustees voting the approval to move forward with those models.
Thank you. The last question, what is the feel of teachers with this change in remote and virtual training?
You know, I think there was a great analogy from one teacher who said, excuse me, but I'm building the plane as I'm flying. So I think that pretty much said it. You know, I mean, we really have flipped education on its head, right? So we've gone from a very traditional one-room schoolhouse sort of model. The teacher is their own island, teaching individually with those students to try and accommodate a remote distance learning model, as well as have touch points. You know, the governor has required school districts for the teachers to have multiple touch points with their kids. So let's just take a simple model. If they only had 30 kids that they had to deal with, and you're having online instruction, and now you have to schedule Zoom meetings individually with those students, 30 different Zoom meetings. You know, the teachers are going to be working 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. to pull it off. So there's a, you know, obviously there's a learning curve for the students and the parents to figure out how to get on, a frustration with the connectivity of whether or not it's even a good connection. So, you know, there's interruptions in that connection with their education. The students are feeling distance because they're not they're not next to their friends and able to have that camaraderie. And the teachers are doing their best to herd and be able to educate our kids and keep them up to the level of grade that we expect them to be. But it is certainly a huge impact on teachers and their workday.
Thank you. What is the union's position on returning to the classrooms in Corona?
I cannot speak to that. I have not heard what their position is there. I don't know, Bobby, if you've heard something from the Corona Norco Union, Teachers Union.
We have a board member that serves, that is a assistant superintendent. So we'll have him address that with us maybe next week or the week after.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cool. Okay, those are all the questions in the chat.
All right, thanks you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so
Trustee Cousins, we appreciate you taking your time to come and be here with us today. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Our next speaker today is Corona Police Chief George Johnstone. He joined the Corona Police Department. It'll be 2 years ago tomorrow, and we snatched him away from La Habra. He has 33 years of service in law enforcement. Public safety and public service are his top priorities for the Corona Police Department. Chief Johnston's dedication to strong partnership within the community helped further their mission of enhancing the quality of life for this community. Please welcome Chief Johnstone.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Bobby, for such a kind introduction, and good morning to all the chamber members. If possible, I'd like to share screen, Stephanie, if that's possible.
Sure, give me just one moment.
I'd like to start, the topic for today is preparing for protests. And as a, just as a caveat, I do not anticipate protests. This is a preparation should what's occurring in other areas of the nation come to Corona, what would be a best practice for our businesses. I have to acknowledge that Corona is a unique community, and it's unique in that we did have a protest on June 1st, and that protest was very peaceful. And I attribute that to, first of all, the organizers of the protest wanting a peaceful protest and not wanting to bring destruction or mayhem to our city. And second, to the community involvement. It's to our community-based organizations, to our faith-based organizations, to our electeds for being part of that protest as well. That definitely makes a difference. And I will be sharing this now, and hopefully, do you have that viewable now?
Looks great.
Okay. So with that, communication is a key ingredient to preparation. It is a topic that we learned about at the PD that we can enhance and do a little better. We too were chasing information prior to June 1st about what the intent of this protest was and how wide it was going to be, because the communications were going across the entire region. So what we are seeking is reliable sources of information. We will have a single source from the PD to the public, and generally that would be our public information officer. And to increase ease of access to that information, I encourage everyone to follow the city and the Corona Police Department on social media at Corona PD, at City of Corona, and at Corona Fire Department. Information vetting, public to police sharing of protest information. If you have information regarding a protest, if you learn about it through social media or through firsthand information from people that you may have encountered, any emergency information that is non-life threatening or not a crime in progress can be communicated to the police department at our general information number, 951-736. It's cut off there, and selecting option 3. Non-emergency information, you can call our intelligence unit, which is Sergeant Gary Griffiths, at 951-736-2423. When calling, remember to provide the source that you received this from, your information, and how we can vet and verify the information that you've come across. Also, this allows for our detectives to gather the firsthand information and not have to rely upon the telephone information of, I think this is what they said that we heard from someone else, third parties. So on June 1st, just to recount, this was a protest regarding the killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis and a police reform protest. It occurred at Santana Park, and there was an estimate between 300 to 500 citizens that attended there. Again, I attribute this to the intent of the organizers for it to be peaceful, and also to the significant participation from our community-based organizations and faith-based organizations. Corona Police Department initiated our first activation of emergency personnel schedule, which meant all our officers, including detectives, administrative staff, and patrol, were on an emergency schedule of 12 hours on and 12 hours off. That occurred for the entire week of June 1st. We deployed our mobile field force, which is specialized in training for handling protests and demonstrations. We employed detectives to do the intelligence research behind the event and other events that we were becoming aware of. And we had a special response team should there be a need for citizen rescue. We made immediate contact with the organizers, and this was also facilitated through our elected officials who were also involved in speaking with the organizers. This was instrumental in establishing the intent of both sides. I had the opportunity to meet with the organizers and explain what I thought were some best and smart practices and ask them what they were hoping to accomplish. This was definitely driven on their part. It was not driven by the police department, and their intent was to communicate their message and to do it peacefully, and I believe they achieved that. We conducted an after-action analysis of the event and identified additional equipment needs. We are always learning how to improve our responses. We identified a need for a single information source. Again, this is the communication side of it, to receive and disseminate information. We had multiple people working to send communication out, and we had multiple people receiving communication inward. So what we're looking to do is funnel that both coming in so that we receive, I am aware of all information coming in eventually, and that we're consistent in our messaging out. The goal of businesses, it is very similar to policing, and that's to first protect your people, to protect your property, information, and reputation. So here are some business tips. Again, I am not anticipating any protests coming to Corona, but this is much like planning for an earthquake or planning for a flood, is always have a plan for what could happen. So know what events are planned. So monitoring social media, monitoring the police department and city social media outlets. Some protests will not require permits due to First Amendment, and they may be impromptu in nature. So when we learn of that, we will communicate that out through our social media as well. It is recommended that depending on your business and what is contained in your business, you may want to consider hiring additional security for your business or for that complex. There are pros and cons with uniformed presence. They can attract attention as well, but they can also prevent people from taking opportunity that they may otherwise take. Have a surveillance system. Visible presence is a deterrent as well. So camera systems that can be seen can deter crimes from happening on your property as well. Report trespassing and criminal behavior to the police if it's a crime in progress, 911 for those emergencies. And we also encourage the use of off-site monitoring if you do have that security system. Off-site monitoring allows you to not have to be present on the location, but to still be able to see if criminal activity is occurring to your business. Consider closing the business for the day. The safety of employees and customers comes first, and make sure you communicate that closure out as well. It's very important to verify insurance before this type of incident occurs, just as it would be with fire or flood coverage. Does it cover business interruptions or damage? So these are some questions. Additionally, if you have additional questions, I would also like to direct you to ready.gov/business. Ready.gov will provide the opportunity to prepare for many things, including floods, fires, and protests potentially as well. I'm open for any questions.
Thank you very much, Chief. What we're going to do, since there's so much overlap, we're going to have Sheriff Bianco speak, and then we're going to do his question, and then both you gentlemen will be involved at the same time. If that's okay, if you have time to hang around.
I do. I will be by.
So next, I'd like to welcome our Riverside County Sheriff, Chad Bianco. Sheriff Bianco was elected Sheriff Coroner and Public Administrator of Riverside County in 2018. He is a 27-year veteran of the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. He has a strong belief in service above self and hopes that his priorities of God, family, and service will provide meaningful guidance and direction as the Sheriff's Department works to positively influence and engage the community. So please welcome Sheriff Bianco.
Good morning, thank you. I'm outside and sometimes it gets loud here, so hopefully the background noise isn't too bad. I want to thank your chief for the presentation that he just gave for all of you there in Corona. That was a great resource, and it goes without saying the city picked a great chief, and you're in good hands as far as all of this stuff goes in the law enforcement perspective. Talking about the protests, while we don't expect protests to come here, we are going to plan for them, especially from the Sheriff's Department. We know, I'm sure all of you are aware that the protests that we had before were, some were substantial, some were not. Our Temecula was hit the hardest as far as protests go. They had 19. In comparison, the city of Riverside had 14. So we had them all throughout our county. The most we had in one day was 7 throughout the county that we were responsible for. One happened to be the backup that we were providing to Riverside. but also the rest of our contract cities that we had throughout the county. So while we're a huge county, and we know that should protests come here, we will be spread a little bit thin. The police departments are in more of a precarious situation than we are, just based on numbers. So for the most part, we're going to provide the numbers should they need it. We don't want to be behind the eight ball. I'll give you just a brief idea of what I'm thinking about these protests. I think we were very successful in saving our businesses and saving our downtown areas of many of our cities, including downtown Riverside, specifically the Mission Inn area. We were able to prevent the fires, the destruction, the damage to property that we were seeing on TV in the majority of the cities that there were protests. And like the chief said, the majority of the protests, we are here to support the lawful protests. Exercising your First Amendment rights, that's what we're here for, to make sure that you are allowed to do that. However, when that changes from a lawful protest into a riot, that is where we step in. And the position that the Sheriff's Department is taking is we will have a zero tolerance for that line that goes from lawful protests to riots. And we will not allow what we saw on TV, where people are pushing the limits of what they can do, and the burning buildings and the burning cars and the tagging of the police departments and the sheriff's departments. We are not going to allow that, and we will make sure that we have a large enough force deployed. As we learn about this, we have our entire intel department right now that is monitoring all of these protests. We know that they have to organize, and they're doing it through social media. So we are monitoring those sites, and we are making sure that we know about these protests before they happen. In the event that we need to ramp up our staffing to where we need to provide service to our neighboring cities, Corona included, we will have that availability. We will have the amount of personnel on standby or actually working at the time. For instance, and I just want to throw this out there, and George knows this, if the city of Corona is having a protest, we are not necessarily going to be in the city of Corona for that protest, but we will be staging right outside, waiting for the Corona Police Department to call and ask for our assistance if needed, and we will be there as soon as we possibly can. So we don't want to be where other agencies have been, where the riots start and it takes 4, 8, 12, 24 hours for them to ramp up, and then the riots have already taken on a life of their own, and that's when property is being destroyed, businesses are being destroyed, things being burned, and we're going to do everything we can to prevent that from happening. If it happens at other places, we aren't going to be concerned about it. We want to make sure that Riverside County as a whole is we're prevented from that type of lawlessness, and that's the action and the position that we're going to take on it. So we feel like we were very successful in the ones that we've had so far in allowing them to protest, allowing them to do their demonstrations and their marches, but at the same time we stopped them short when they started turning violent. And I will credit the organizers of some of these demonstrations that they were working with us to identify the people in their own marches that were going to be violent, that weren't necessarily with them on the same page. They were the Antifas. They were the people that were there to loot or to damage or to riot. And so the relationship that we're building with those people that are planning these potential protests, we want them to be able to protest. They want to protest, and they know that the only way we're going to allow that is if they help us identify the people that shouldn't be there. And we'll make sure that those people aren't in your streets, in front of your businesses, and potentially destroying your property or hurting your business. So again, like kind of George said, we don't, there are no planned protests here, and we're not hoping they come here, and we don't want them to come here, but we're going to manage them very well and very professionally should they do come here. And I just want everyone in Riverside County to know, particularly because of this call, the Corona Chamber, the Sheriff's Department is completely behind the police department there, and we'll do everything we can to make sure your businesses are safe.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you so much. And I just got to tell both of you gentlemen on behalf of the Corona Chamber of Commerce and our business committee how much we appreciate you and your staffs, the brave men and women that go out there and serve on our behalf every single day. And before we go any farther, I just want to assure you that the majority of your constituents are behind you 100%. So thank you, gentlemen. With that, Stephanie, do we have any questions for the sheriff or the chief?
We do have several. This one is directed for both of them. So if either of you want to take the lead on it or you both want to answer. The question is about being worried about recent so-called peaceful protests that seem to have escalated in other areas. Is there a way that either the city or the county communicate urgent messaging to our businesses and residents?
So I'll take this initially. Again, the social media is a great one to track. I encourage everyone to, if it becomes an emergent potential riotous situation, it's quite possible that an emergency broadcast will go out for the local area, depending on the size and scope of what we're expecting to occur. But definitely follow the local police department and city social media. That is the #1 source of accurate information going out. And that's where I encourage you to seek that information from.
I'll second that. Everything he said. We need to take advantage of social media the same way that everyone else is taking advantage of social media. And in addition to our reverse 911s, should a severe emergency happen, we can definitely utilize those things. But we will be posting routinely on our own social medias, as well as we will utilize the Corona pages, the what's going on in Coronas, and the neighborhood apps and those types of things. So we're going to be actively pushing social media messages from us to you, so you're not getting the information from maybe an unreliable source or people that just want to do the right thing, but they're really not doing factual information. And along with what the chief said, I want to caution everyone that if you do not get messages, direct messages or direct posts from Corona Police Department or the Riverside Sheriff's Department, don't assume that it is factual. Just because someone is saying, oh, I have a friend of a friend of a friend who's a policeman or a policewoman or they work for the Sheriff's Department, that doesn't mean the information's reliable. So make sure that you're following our pages, and then if something is posted in one of your own local pages, make sure it's coming from either the police department or the Sheriff's Department.
Great, thank you. So if we happen to hear ahead of time that there is a planned violent protest somewhere in Riverside County, what can businesses do to prepare in advance of such activity?
I'll take this one first, George, just because I was still unmuted. I think the chief already covered it in his presentation. I think you need to plan for it. I think if there's credible information that something is going to be violent and it's going to be in your neighborhood or in your business neighborhood, in your downtown areas, I think you need to do everything you can to protect your business, whether it be boarding up windows, whether it be alarms and videos and things like that, video surveillance. I think we all should be doing that anyway outside of this. But I mean, honestly, you need to make sure that in the event something does happen, that your insurance is up, that you are going to have coverage for that. And then also, even at the time, if I'll throw Lake Elsinore out there. Lake Elsinore, in the June protest, they had word that they were going to have a violent protest riot in their downtown area, and I was very, very impressed at the business owners that they boarded up the entire downtown. And quite honestly, what that did, it may have been an inconvenience and it may have cost, maybe $100 per business for plywood. But when they got there and they saw what they were up against, they left. There was not a violent protest. It did not turn a riot because they were not going to be able to damage anything. So I think you need to do what's right for yourself. We're going to do everything we can to protect your businesses, but we're after the phone call, or we're in the overall event as a whole, not your individual business. So you need to do everything you can to protect your own.
So just Stephanie, just to highlight the The ready.gov site also has good information there. It's first take account what valuables are inside your business. Can they be removed? Also, on board ups, don't count on that board up being available that day if it's a large scale event. So have multiple numbers that you can call, have resources that can come out, and prepare for it as if it were an earthquake or a flood. If you're doing it the day of, you're behind the 8 ball already. You need to be giving consideration to this today.
Thank you. Okay, this next question is for Chief Johnstone. Has the Corona City Council given you any indication that they are willing to defund the city police?
No, quite the opposite. The City Council has been very supportive of the police department. We are actually increasing staffing with grant funding to increase by 2 homeless and psychological evaluation officers and 1 community crimes against the community officer as well as having increased our staff to bring back our flex team, which addresses community crimes such as burglary and transient issues where there's criminal acts with those transient or homeless neighbors. So it's quite the opposite. We have received significant support from our council, and I'm appreciative for that.
Great, thank you. Okay, the last question I've received up to this point is for Chad. Has the Riverside County Board of Supervisors given you any indication that they are willing to defund the Sheriff's Department?
Sorry, I muted myself again. I want to say a yes and a no, and with a more emphasis on the no. Like the chief, they were very, the budget that we got may not have been what we wanted, and especially in light of COVID, there was definitely not any talk of defunding. One of our supervisors was in favor of severely limiting the money that they were going to give us, but was overridden by the other 4. In the end, they all voted for our budget for what we wanted. I want to throw out there this whole, we've got 17 contract cities, and none of those cities have indicated anything about defunding the police either. So I want to throw this out there to everybody that's watching, and that everybody may be watching later, is we can't be caught up in what the press is telling us and what special interest groups are talking about. You know, they put the microphone in somebody's face and you've got 10 people there yelling about defund the police. Everyone knows that's a horrible idea. Criminals know that's a horrible idea because they call us too. So the whole movement of defund the police is not really a big movement, but the media would like everyone to think it is because it causes controversy. For the most part, I'm glad Corona was the same way. All of our contract cities in the county were the same, and the overall majority of the Board of Supervisors are in favor of better policing, better training, and making us better. And we all know that it takes money for that. So there is no movement in Riverside County that I'm aware of that has anything to do with limiting our police forces, our sheriff's department, or even shrinking in the future.
Thank you so much to both of you. We do not have any other questions submitted at this time.
Thank you very much. And what a great call we did today, everyone. Thank you so much to Chief, to the Sheriff, to Kim, and to Mayor Steiner. Thank you so much. This is just invaluable information, and to get it directly from you on the front line there. I know you're busy men and women and of your department, and we just appreciate it so much. So thank you all. Remember, you have to register every week for this. And before I get to that, I just want to remind you that you can get text informations from the Chamber of Commerce. And if you look at the screen there, you text to 71441 to get a reminder text, and you can look all of the notifications for all the things you see there. There's different texts you can send, B2B, B2C, and all that. So you can keep up to date with what we're doing at the Chamber and select what's pertinent specifically for you and your business to be sure you don't miss anything. So there you have it. And I will again remind you that you need to sign up for this call every week so you can get on the Zoom call. Next week, we continue with our topic of public safety, which in every survey everybody ever does is the #1 thing people are concerned about is public safety and being safe in their communities. And we're going to have our district attorney, Mike Hestron. Mike is always interesting and gives a great presentation. The link to sign in is case sensitive. And if you want to automatically be registered, Stephanie can do that for you. So if you send her an email, she can automatically set you up with that. One final thank you to our speakers and to Vulcan Materials for being our sponsor today. If you are interested in being a sponsor, please contact the Chamber office. You can contact Bobby or Stephanie, or anyone down there can help you, any of our staff. Before we call it a day, we're going to have some brief announcements. And I'm pleased to have our chair-elect, the 2021 Corona Chamber of Commerce Chairman of the Board, Kim Maybon from Creative by Design, join me in sharing some announcements. So Kim's going to kick it off. Kim.
Thank you, Don. Just a reminder for those of you who are not yet a member, or if you know of a neighboring business that would find chamber membership beneficial, please connect with Robert Yanez to become part of our chamber family. We do service a regional landscape. If you refer a member, you will get free advertisement in the Corona Business News.
Thank you. Our next Good Morning Corona will be Friday, September the 18th. If you register by September 7th, there'll be a $15 savings, and you can either buy a virtual and in-person ticket. Both are available. So we look forward to seeing you there.
Our next Coffee with the Entrepreneur will be with Greg and Bonnie Yoder from Crumbles Cookies on Monday, September 14th via Zoom. This monthly program is held in partnership with the City of Corona. It's free to attend, so register today. Past programs are also available to watch on the Chamber's YouTube and Facebook channels.
Thank you. On Tuesday, September 15th at 9 o'clock, we're going to have a restaurant recovery webinar. This webinar is free and will cover safety guidelines, financing and marketing, customer experience, and much more. It's co-hosted by the City of Corona, the Inland Empire Small Business Development Center, and Riverside County Environmental Health Department. Share with a friend, and please register at mychamber.org.
Thank you to the businesses shown on the screen now for sponsoring the Corona Golf Classic, which will be held on Thursday, October 29th. Just a few sponsorships remain. If you don't have a foursome, don't worry, we'll invite a frontline healthcare worker to golf with you on your team. Sponsorship is a great way to get your business recognized, build relationships, and have fun. Opportunity tickets are now available. Sales of these tickets will allow to include more of our local healthcare heroes. You'll get a chance to win some great prizes, including gift cards, a big screen smart TV, and a Fender guitar.
Thank you. The Women's Leadership Conference will be on Thursday, September 24th. Topics include preventing teen burnout, speaking up for success, pivoting in the pandemic, and selling with a servant heart. We'll also have a physicians panel and are accepting anonymous questions at mychamber.org/WLC now. This is a 100% virtual conference with some new fun elements to engage our audience. New this year, you can purchase an exciting conference mystery box. You don't want to miss it, so register now and use promo code CCBB to save $20 per ticket. And this is something that men are welcome to and will get just as much out of as the women.
It's your last chance to register for Paul Webb's very popular workshop coming up tomorrow, Thursday, September 3rd at 8 a.m. Paul is a licensed NLP master trainer with over 43 years of sales training experience. The focus will be on how to handle customer attitudes, skepticism, indifference, and objections. If you missed any of the past workshops, don't worry, he'll do a quick review before going on to new material.
Thank you, Kim. And finally, next week, celebrate the 107th anniversary of the 1913 Corona Road Race by joining us on this call. You have to register. Again, we're going to talk about public safety, and it'll be at 10 a.m. You'll see the biddy link there on the screen, and remember, it is case sensitive. And Stephanie can set this up for you automatically as well, so you do not have to do this every week. But those of you that haven't done that, please plan on attending. Again, thank you all for being on the call. Thank you once again to our speakers and our sponsor, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.